Padakamalam Vidram Peta Mata Sri Rupam Satrajatam Sahagana Ragna Khanita Vajjiva Satritam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Viradha Krishna Pada Radhana Santa Vichapata Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Priya Chaitra Gadadha Sivasati Gauranga Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Priya Chaitra Gadadha Sivasati Gauranga Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Priya Chaitra Gadadha Sivasati Gauranga Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
I shall leave for my books and you will utilize. If you don't read, then you feel restless. Let me go from Japan to India, from India to Japan. You are restless because you don't read. I am laboring so hard for you, but you don't kind of take advantage. Don't take advantage of eating and sleep. Take advantage of this book. Then your life will be better. My duty, I am giving. So valuable things. Day and night, becoming guilty, towards the world. And if you don't take advantage of it, then what can I do for you? I have no personal qualification, but I simply try to satisfy my pleasure. My Guru Maharaj asked me that he should pay some money to bring books. Wants to know your age. After 1 month, I will be 80. 8 years. I was born in 1896. Now you can calculate. I'll never die. I shall leave for my books and he will utilize. You read? You read? If you don't read, then you feel restless. Let me go from Japan to India, from India to Japan. You are restless because you don't read. I am laboring so hard for you, but you don't kind of take advantage. Don't take advantage of eating and sleep. Take advantage of this. That's the life. Guilty, I am giving. So valuable things. Day and night, becoming guilty. You want the world. And if you don't take advantage of it, then what can I do for you?
Yeah, we'll start. Sorry. Just another 15 minutes waited. It's okay. Let us read. Whoever can join, they can join and read with us. Thank you, Sapan Kumar Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji, for joining. Let us begin with Mangalacharana prayers. Audio clear, right? Can you confirm, please? Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Jai. Jai Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादे पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुन्देयतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम् ॐ अपवित्र पवित्रो वा सर्वावस्थं गतोऽपि वा यस्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं साभ्याभ्यन्तरं शुचिः श्रीविष्णु हरे कृष्ण. So the path of perfection PDF, okay, I'm just sharing now the perfection of yoga. Yeah, start sharing new one. Yeah, today is going to be the last chapter of this book, and after that we will go to with other book. Okay, On the Way to Krishna, that book also we can start reading. So this is book The Path of Perfection, right? Prabhupada talks about different things in these different chapters. Yoga as re-establishing relationship with Krishna, yoga as work in devotion, yoga as meditation and Krishna, yoga as rejected by Arjuna, yoga as body and mind control, yoga as freedom from duality and designation, and the fate of the unsuccessful yogi, right? We have read since last previous weeks. This is the last chapter of this book, The Perfection of Yoga. The book title is also The Perfection of Yoga. Okay, so Prabhupada talks about 6th chapter, mostly 6th chapter, and some of the verses from 9th chapter, some of the verses from 7th chapter. See, he covered here and there some of the verses in connection with this topic. So let us read the 8th chapter, The Perfection of Yoga. It's very small. How many pages? I think 2 pages, 2 or 3. Yeah, 2 pages. Yeah, you both can read off of. So yeah, Vanilla Matai, Sadhan Matai.
Correct. Chapter 8, Perfection of Yoga. It is a fact, therefore, that the progress of the living entity towards the perfection of yoga, birth in a family of yogis or devotees, is a great boon. For such a birth gives one a special impetus. Prayatna yatamaanastu yogi samsuddha kilbishaha aneka janma samsiddhas tato yati param gatim. But when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately, after many years of many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Bhagavad Gita 6.45. When one is finally freed from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection of the yoga system, Krishna consciousness. Absorption in Krishna is the perfect stage, as Krishna himself confirms. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatmasu durlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Thus, after many lifetimes of executing pious activities, when one becomes freed from all contaminations arising from illusory dualities, he engages in the transcendental service of the Lord. Sri Krishna concludes his discourse on this subject in this way. Yoginam api sarvesham yamadgater antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. Bhagavad Gita 6.47.
Yeah. Yeah, ఈ 2 paragraphs Prabhupada Gita Mataji. Okay, na? Thank you very much. So 3 verses Prabhupada writes in this particular chapter, from Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 6.45 and 7th chapter 7.19 and then 6.47. 6.47 is very, very, very important verse. Right? Yoginam api sarvesham madgater antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samaya yukta tamomataha. And of all yogis, like Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, madgater antaratmana. Shraddhavan, Shraddha means faith. Shraddhavan, bhajate yomam, worshipping with great faith, faith, worshipping and loving service. To whom? To him, to Krishna. He is most intimately united with me in yoga and he is the highest of all. That means Bhakti Yoga is the topmost system. Okay. So Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. And of all yogis, Bhakti Yoga is the highest of all. That's Krishna himself concluding and he start teaching us what exactly Bhakti Yoga is all about from 7th chapter to 12th chapter. So this is the beginning of the actually the last verse is the beginning to the 7th verse of Bhakti Yoga teachings. Krishna is given by Krishna. Yoginam api sarvesha madgater antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayukta tamamataha. One of the important words Srila Prabhupada quotes in his purports. Absorption in Krishna is a perfect stage, as Krishna himself confirms. Before that, there is one verse, 6.45. What exactly is saying? Or when the yogi engages himself with a sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately, after many, many births of practice, he attains supreme goal. So that is the every lifetime. So we are passing through different lifetimes. Why we are getting bodies? Because we have material desires. Our karma, based on karma, we got this body. Karma, how the karma is? Because of the desires. So with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations. What are the contaminations? Selfish motives, selfish desires, material desires, and those 6 things. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsaryalu. So those are the things. All the contaminated state. Prabhupada writes an example. Water drop from the cloud, it's very pure. Actually, it's very pure until it touches the mud. When the water drop touches the mud, what happens? The quality is gone. It is associating with the material, the matter, the dirt. The white pure drop is contaminated with the material, the dust. Similarly, living entity is pure actually. Because of material desires, we got the different bodies. Contaminations. Right? So what is that? Our original nature of the soul is the servitorship. So we have to get that same body. When we practice this Bhakti Yoga process, it will being washed of all contaminations. So after many births, different birds in different species, right? And what is that? Human form is the best platform to elevate us because of the developed consciousness, because of the discrimination of the power Krishna is given to human beings. So after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Not in this life. Prabhupada writes quotes from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's teaching again. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavanma prapadyate Vasudevaha sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Krishna himself says, whoever comes to me, after many, many births, they are surrendering to me. They are coming to me. Right? After many, many births. Such a great soul is very rare. Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. If we see, just an example, if we see in the material world, in this material universe, not only India, entire this material universe, how many people are there total? Close to 9 billion, I think. Close to 9 billion means 900 crore in Indian terms, monetary terms. So 900 crore, 900 crores of people there, human beings there. How many of them practicing or understanding the seriousness of human life? 1% also not there. So that is the truth. So this process is very, 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 very pure and helps us to understand our position, right? So ultimately, in this 6th chapter, Krishna himself says that Bhakti Yogi is the topmost yogi. Simple. So read, Prabhu, Sapan Kumar Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. It therefore follows that the culmination of all yogis lie in Bhakti Yoga, the rendering of devotional service unto Krishna. Actually, all of the yogas delineated in Bhagavad Gita end on this note. For Krishna is the ultimate destination of all the yoga systems. From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma Yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Jnana Yoga or Yoga of knowledge. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different process and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses Ashtanga Yoga and comes to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, this is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Actually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand the other processes. The yogi who's progressive is therefore on the true path to eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name: Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. But if one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, it is to be understand that he has surpassed all other yoga systems. Krishna consciousness is the last link in the yogic chain, the link that binds us to the Supreme Person, Lord Sri Krishna. Without this final link, the chain is practically useless. Those who are truly interested in the perfection of yoga process should immediately take to Krishna consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, understanding Bhagavad Gita, and rendering service to Krishna through this society for Krishna consciousness, and thereby surpass all other systems and attain the ultimate goal of all yoga, love of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So that's what it is. Prabhupada writes description is a purport on this verse. So what is the topmost yoga system? Bhakti Yoga. What is that Bhakti Yoga? Serving our Supreme Lord with our senses. But if one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, it is understood that he has surpassed all other yoga systems. There are different yoga systems there. Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi. Actually, it's a different way. I mean, somebody, that the intellectuals reading different yoga principles, different books, different Vedic literatures, and they create their own different yogas. But all the yogis, all the different yogas or yogi systems or yoga systems there, we have to go with the Krishna's word. We have to go with the Krishna's word. 6.47. Just now we read Yoginam api sarvesham madgater antaratmana. So Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system. It is like, this is the thing. Prabhupada writes in previous books, in his purports also. What he writes, it's an elevator process. Right? There are two things, in a building. Steps there, elevator also there. They assume that 100 floors building there. Steps there, obviously, because of, without step, there won't be any building. For fire evacuations or sometimes lift damages, something like that. Steps also there. Now let us understand. So lift steps there, elevator there. Bhakti yoga is like elevator, and whereas steps like different yoga systems, karma yogi, jnana yogi, this blah 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 blah. So and it is taking time. Ultimately, it has to come to the platform of bhakti yoga only. Ultimately, through the steps also. But when we take up the bhakti yoga principles directly, just like Prabhupada writes, Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga, Kama Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yoga systems. Elevator process directly. That's it. Click the button of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and go back to garden. Practicing. So that's what it is. Ultimate path of perfection is 6th chapter 47 verse. Krishna himself saying this. You have to remember. This is the last verse of the 6th chapter. Bhakti yoga is the topmost system. We can, if somebody asks why only, you ISKCON people practicing every time, chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But there is a support. There is a supportive statement from Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, from Bhagavad Gita. We have to say, we have to remember this verse. Yogi Nam api sarvesham madgate rantaratmana. What is the yogi? We have to say we are practicing Bhakti yoga. We are Bhakti yogas and Bhakti yoginis practicing devotional service. What is exactly that? What is the proof that Krishna says? We have to say this. 6.47. The highest of all. Krishna himself says that highest of all. Who is the highest of all? And of all yogis, different yogis. He who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service. The Bhakti yoga means worshipping Krishna through chanting, through remembering, through hearing. Right? So that's the thing. There's a transcendental loving service. So ultimately, from this book, we have to understand that the perfection, the perfection of yoga is 6.47. We have to remember Krishna. We have to always abides in me. That means always think about Krishna, never forgets. With great faith. Is most intimately united with me in yoga and is highest of all. So Krishna only says that. So that is the thing. Highest of all is all yoga systems of highest is what? Bhakti yoga. Okay, so Bhakti yoga. So Krishna consciousness, ISKCON is training. ISKCON is training us how to practice Bhakti yoga. Yeah, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada especially put the name. Some devotees suggested that, God consciousness, maybe it can be attractable for different religions. But Prabhupada himself, no. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can we prove? Prove from the Bhagavad Gita. He has given the knowledge of entire thing, spiritual world, material world, what are the living entities, how these living entities are struggling in this material nature, what are the three modes of material nature, what is the karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, different yoga systems, what is ultimate knowledge, what is eternal, everything, all the teachings given by Krishna. So that's why he put the specific name, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not God consciousness. Krishna, that's it. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's it. So we completed this book. Thank you so much for joining and regularly reading in previous weeks and today. So let us go through with the new book. Okay, On the Way to Krishna, a wonderful book. That is another wonderful book. Let us start reading. Let me share. Okay, it's there in our Veda base. That book. It's better to read there only. Okay. Yeah.
This is the first book I read of Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, Namaste. Nice. Very good. Haribol. 1 second. I'm just opening Vedabis. Yeah. I think Raju Prabhu or Sirisha Mother, who are there here, Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhu, Raju Prabhu, thank you for joining. You want to read something?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Please read, Prabhu. This is another book we are picking up, Prabhu, On the Way to Krishna. Yeah. Read, Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Actually, I interested in reading, but the evening times, actually, most of the times, yeah, I don't know, Prabhuji, how you are making this calls and every day regularly. Yeah, for us, actually, sometimes.
It's okay, Prabhu. It's okay. మార్నింగ్ జాయిన్ అవుతున్నారు, చాంటింగ్ చేస్తున్నారు, చదువుతున్నారు. ఇట్స్ ఓకే. వర్క్ కూడా చూసుకోవాలి. బ్యాలెన్స్ బోత్ ఆర్ నీడెడ్.
అదే
ఇవి ఒక్కసారి చదివితే గుర్తున్నాయి ప్రభు. మరి పదే చదవాలి. ఇది ఒక యాక్టివిటీ, డైలీ యాక్టివిటీ లాగా. ఇప్పుడు మనం ఇన్ని రోజులు భగవద్గీత, భాగవతం, చైతన్య చరితామృతం అన్ని చదివినాం. ఎన్ని గుర్తున్నాయి చెప్పండి? ఇట్స్ ఏ యాక్టివిటీ అండ్ థింక్ దట్ వీఆర్ విత్ కృష్ణ, వీఆర్ విత్ ద ప్రాపర్ ట్రాన్సెండెంటల్ నాలెడ్జ్. It's okay. We'll continue
every
reading.
time whenever you read Prabhuji, you'll get like different kind of knowledge, Prabhuji. Same మనం ఎప్పుడు ఆ సేమ్ చదివినా కూడా మన లైక్ మన థింకింగ్ డిఫరెంట్ ఉంటది. అదే ఎవ్రీ టైం మనం విల్ గెట్ డిఫరెంట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ నాలెడ్జ్, Prabhuji.
ఫ్రెష్ బికాస్ ఎవరు రాసింది ఇవన్నీ నాలెడ్జ్ అంతా ఫ్రమ్ కృష్ణ ఓన్లీ.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All these great teachers, all these great acharyas given this knowledge, and this is not a temporary knowledge, or this knowledge is going to change, like software systems version 1.2 1.3 patch ఇవేమన్నా ఉంటాయి కదా, అది కాదు. ఇది ఎటర్నల్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ అండ్ నెవర్ చేంజెస్. ఒక్క వర్షన్ ఇచ్చిండు అంతే భగవంతుడు. ఆ వర్షన్ ఎప్పుడు ఉంటుంది? మనం పుట్టక ముందు ఉంది, పుట్టినాక చూస్తున్నాం, ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ అవుతున్నాం, మనం పోయిన తర్వాత కూడా ఉంటుంది. ఈ స్క్రిప్చర్స్, భగవద్గీత, భాగవతం, devotees, pastimes. Yeah, this is eternal knowledge, Prabhuji. This is not a mundane knowledge. That's where ఈ నాలెడ్జ్ ఎవరు ఇచ్చారు? కృష్ణుడే ఇచ్చిండు, రైట్? వేదైశ్య సర్వం వేదైశ్య సర్వైర్ అహమేవ వేద్యో వేదాంతకృత్ వేద విదేవచాహం. సో వేదాలు వచ్చినాయని తన నుంచి వచ్చినాయి, భగవంతుని లోటస్ మౌత్ నుంచి వచ్చినాయి ఇవన్నీ కూడా. ఎస్, చదవండి ప్రభు. ఇది కొంత చదవండి, లెట్ us give it to other devotees. ఓకే. మీ మాతాజీ కూడా ఉంటే చదవమనండి. ఓకే.
On the way to Krishna was prepared from the transcripts of lectures Srila Prabhupada gave in New York in the fall of 1966 on the Bhagavad Gita. The editor was Srila Prabhupada's disciple Hayagriva Dasa, Howard Wheeler, MA.
యా. సో యాక్చువల్లీ ప్రభు, మన ఇస్కాన్ స్టార్ట్ అయింది 1966లో, ప్రభుపాద వెళ్ళింది 1965లో. సో ఇది వెరీ ఇనిషియల్గా ఫస్ట్ రాసిన బుక్ అన్నమాట. అప్పుడే ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ చేసిన ఇస్కాన్ ఆ ఇయర్లో రాసిన బుక్.
August 13th ప్రభుజీ, మన ప్రభుపాద August 13, 1966.
డేట్ గుర్తులేదు ప్రభు, చూడాలి.
ఓకే
చూడండి, చదవండి.
After one, through way to happiness.
Yeah.
Every one of us is searching after happiness, but we do not know what real happiness is. We see so much advertise about happiness, but practically speaking, we see so few people, so few happy people. This is because of few people know that the platform of real happiness beyond the temporary things. It is this real happiness that described in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Happiness is generally perceived through our senses. A stone, for instance, has no senses and cannot perceive happiness and distress. Developed consciousness can perceive happiness and distress more intensely than undeveloped consciousness. Trees have consciousness, but it is not developed. Trees may stand for a long time in all kinds of weather, but they
they have no way to perceiving miseries. If a human being were asked to stand like a tree for only 3 days or even less, he would not be able to tolerate it. The conclusion is that every living being feels happiness and distress according to the degree of development of his consciousness. Can I continue?
Continue.
The happiness that we are experiencing in the material world is not real happiness. If one asks a tree, are you feeling happy? The tree, if it could, might say, yes, I am happy standing here all year. I am enjoying the wind and snowfall very much, etc. This may be enjoyed by the tree, but for human being, it is a very low standard of enjoyment. There are different kinds and grades of living entities, and their conceptions and perceptions of happiness are also of all different types and grades. Although one animal may be see that another animal by being slaughtered, he will go to right on chewing grass, for has no knowledge of understanding that he may be next. He is thinking that he is happy, but at the next moment he may be slaughtered. In this way, there are different degrees of happiness, yet all of them, what is the highest happiness? Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, Sukam Sukam Atya Atyantikam Yat Buddhigrahyam Atindriyam Vidyatra na Chaivayam Sthita Chalati Tatvataha. In that Jaya state, Samadhi, one is situated in the boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses, established that who never depart from the truth. Bhagavad Gita 6.20. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. One of the beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita 6.21, Srila Prabhupada quotes here. So that kind of happiness is boundless. There is no bounding, like, it's a joyous state, samadhi. One is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. How can we understand what exactly the happiness, highest happiness is? Highest happiness is on the soul platform, not on the material bodily platform. So we seek happiness, to enjoying our senses, right? For example, prasadam or whatever, foodstuffs. No, we get happiness. Why we are eating? Of course, the stomach, the hunger needs to be, to fulfill. But actually, one time we eat. There the why the breakfast, lunch, dinner there, because every time we gets hungry. After breakfast, couple of hours again we have to eat, and after lunch again we have to eat in the dinner. Why? Because our body requires food, and that happiness after eating we get some kind of satisfied, fulfilled, some kind of happiness we get. Yeah, very nice food, very nice. But that happiness cannot stay for long because of the bodily, because of the body. So whereas transcendental senses, transcendental happiness is beyond the bodily level. Actually, there is wonderful verse from Sikshastakam prayer. When chanting the holy names of the Lord, Pulakita, body is going to be Pulakita. Nayanam galadashrudharaya, vadanam gadgadaruddhayagira, pulakair nishitam apukada, tavanama grahane bhavishyati. So that's what. That's a beyond bodily platform actually. That experience is beyond platform. It's a happiness, state of happiness. Transcendental happiness. We can understand that how transcendental happiness experienced when we chant the holy names of the Lord. I mean, we are in the contaminated state, but still from contaminated states to slowly cleared state. It happens through the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Right? So developed consciousness we have, human beings having. But so animal is not there. Animal doesn't have that developed consciousness. That's where this is the Prabhupada writes, although one animal may see that another animal is being slaughtered, he will go right on chewing grass, for he has no knowledge to understand that he may be next. A goat example తీసుకుంటే goats other goat is chewing మంచిగా గ్రాస్ తింటూ అది చేస్తుంది, బట్ షీ నెవర్ థింక్స్ అబౌట్ నెక్స్ట్ ఈజ్ మైన్. ఆ కాన్షియస్నెస్ లేదు, right? He is thinking that he is happy, but as the next moment he may be slaughtered. For example, that if you take example of goat, Prabhupada writes actual goat example only. Yeah. So like that only. While reading through, I'm getting one more point, like our life also like that. There is a death imminent in our bodies. We never know when we go. So we have to utilize whatever the state of consciousness we are in, right? We just have to cultivate Krishna consciousness. The more serious about Krishna consciousness, the better our next life. Seriously, the more we serious about Krishna consciousness, the better next life. Okay, so let us read from this. Prabhupada explains about this verse in detail now. Venela Matai, please chadandi.
Buddhi means intelligence. One has to be intelligent if he wants to enjoy. Animals do not have really developed intelligence and so cannot enjoy life as human beings can. The hands, the nose, the eyes, and the other sense organs and all the bodily parts may be present on a dead man, but he cannot enjoy. Why not? The enjoying energy, the spiritual spark has left, and therefore the body has no power. If one looks further into the matter with a little intelligence, he can understand that it was not the body that was enjoying it all, but the small spiritual spark that was within. Although one may think that he is enjoying by the bodily sense organs, the real enjoyer is that spiritual spark. The spark always has the potency of enjoyment, but it is not always manifest due to being covered by the material tabernacle. Although we may not be aware of it, it is not possible for the body to enjoy spiritual experience enjoyment without the presence of the spiritual spark. If a man is offered the dead body of a beautiful woman, will he accept it? No, because the spiritual spark has moved out of the body. Not only was it enjoying within the body, but it was maintaining the body. When that spiritual spark leaves, when that spark leaves, the body simply deteriorates. Correction.
Read paragraph.
That if the spirit is enjoying, it must have senses also. Otherwise, how can it enjoy? The Vedas confirm that the spirit soul, although atomic in size, is actual enjoying agent. It is not possible to measure the soul, but that is not to say that it is without measurement. An object may seem to us to be no bigger than a point and may seem to have no length or width, but when we perceive it under microscope, we can see that it has both length and width. Similarly, the soul also has its dimensions, but we cannot perceive them. When we buy a suit or dress, it is made to fit the body. The spiritual spark must have a form, otherwise how is it the material body has grown to accommodate it? The conclusion is that the spiritual spark is not impersonal. It is an actual person. God is an actual person, and the spiritual spark, being a fragmental part of him, is also a person. If the Father has a personality and individuality, the Son also has them. And if the Son has them, we can conclude that the Father has them. So how can we, as the sons of God, assert our personality and individuality and at the same time deny them to our Father, the Supreme Lord? Correction.
Continue, Mata. Yeah, continue, Mata.
Atindriyam, we have to transcend these material senses before we appreciate real happiness. Ramante Yagnonanta Satyananda Chidatmani. The yogis who are aspiring after spiritual life are also tasting enjoyment by focusing on the super soul within. If there is no pleasure, if there is no enjoyment, then what is the point of going to so much trouble to control the senses? what kind of pleasure the yogis relishing if they are taking so much trouble. That pleasure is ananta, endless. How is that? The spirit soul is eternal and the Supreme Lord is eternal. Therefore, reciprocation of their loving exchanges is eternal. One who is actually intelligent will refrain from the flickering sensual enjoyment of this material body and fix his enjoyment in the spiritual life. His participation in spiritual life with the Supreme Lord is called Rasalila.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, unless spirit soul is not there, body cannot move. Simple to understand. In order to the consciousness, soul as consciousness. The soul is a person actually. When the soul leave the body, what happens? It's a dead body. It's called dead body. Prabhupada writes, if a man is offered the dead body of a beautiful woman, will he accept it? No, because the spiritual spark has moved out of the body, not only was it enjoying within the body, it was maintaining the body. When the spark leaves, the body simply deteriorates. Yeah. This is beautifully quoted by Srila Prabhupada, right? Ramante yogino nante satyananda chidatmani. The yogis who are aspiring after spiritual life are also tasting enjoyment by focusing on the super soul within. If there is no pleasure, there is no enjoyment, what is the point of going to do so much trouble to control the senses? See, there are principles. What are there? Regulative principles. Why? Why regulative principles? It's a regulative principles of freedom to enjoy eternally, actually. To control, those are the very, very important things. Four regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxications, no illicit sex, and no gambling. It's a regulative principles of freedom, it's called. To freedom to enjoy eternally, actually. If we control those, following for regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna, that's it. We get the spiritual happiness. We get the spiritual, pleasure. That kind of, yogi is experiencing. When we follow those strictly and seriously, regulative principles. Right? Ananta, that pleasure is ananta, endless. There is no question of ending. But if material pleasure is ending is there. Material pleasure is ending because on the bodily level. Right? The spirit soul is eternal. Supreme Lord is eternal. Therefore, reciprocation of their loving exchange is eternal. One is actually intelligent will refrain from the flickering sensual enjoyment. Flickering sensual enjoyment. Flickering means it cannot stay. Sometimes there, sometimes not there. It cannot stay there. Simple to understand. It cannot stay there. Flickering or sensual enjoyment of this material body and fix his enjoyment in spiritual life. That's what it is. Spiritual life is actually, that is a beautiful life. To get the spiritual happiness, we get the spiritual benefits also. Prabhupada writes, little Rasalila, how exactly, in a pure form of understanding, is a participation in spiritual life with the Supreme Lord is called Rasalila. So Prabhupada terms only. So let us see what he is writing here. Sapan Prabhu, please continue. I think somebody joined. Swapna Mata also joined. Okay. Sapan Prabhu, please read. Later, Swapna Mata will read. Okay, thank you.
We have often heard of Krishna's Rasalila with the cowherd girls in Vrindavana. That is not like ordinary exchanges that takes place between these material bodies. Rather, it is an exchange of feelings through the spiritual bodies. One has to be somewhat intelligent to understand this. For a foolish man who cannot understand what real happiness is, seeks happiness in this material world. In India, there is a story of a man who did not know what sugarcane was and was told that it was very sweet to chew. Oh, what does it look like? He asked. It looks like it looks just like a bamboo rod. Someone said. So the foolish man began to chew all kinds of bamboo rods. How can he begin to experience the sweetness of sugarcane? Similarly, we are trying to get happiness and pleasure, but we are trying for them by chewing this material body. Therefore, there is no happiness and no pleasure. For the time being, there may be some little feeling of pleasure, but that is not actual pleasure, for it is temporary. It is like a show of lightning which we may see flashing in the sky, that may momentarily seem like lightning, but real lightning is beyond that. Because a person does not really know what happiness is, he deviates from real happiness.
Continue, Prabhu.
The process for establishing oneself in real happiness is this process of Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness, we can gradually develop our real intelligence and naturally enjoy relishing spiritual happiness as we make spiritual progress. As we begin to relish spiritual happiness, we proportionately abandon material happiness. As we make progress in understanding the absolute truth, we naturally become detached from this false happiness. If somehow or the other one is promoted to that stage of Krishna consciousness, what is the result? Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tata yasmin sito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. Bhagavad Gita 6:22. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Another important verse. Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tata yasmin sthito nadhukkena guru napi vichalyate. So, real happiness, we begin to relish real happiness, real spiritual happiness, relish spiritual happiness, we proportionately abandon material happiness. As we make progress in understanding the absolute truth, we naturally become detached from this false happiness. If somehow or other one is promoted to that stage of Krishna consciousness, what is the result? So that answer is given by Krishna. Upon gaining this, upon gaining the spiritual happiness, upon gaining that Krishna consciousness, he thinks there is no greater than. That's it. Susukam. They are pleased, they are happy. There is no greater gain. Being situated in that position, in that Krishna conscious practicing, and the in that position, in that mood, in that service, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. So that is the end result. If one is situated, one is promoted to that stage, stage of Krishna conscious, purified Krishna conscious stage. It won't be in a single day. It's a years of effort we have to put in. There are different stages of elevation to sangha, from ata sadhu sangha bhajana kriya anartha nivritti. There are stages until bhava prema. 9 stages of progressing towards pure consciousness, right? So that is there. In the beginning we won't experience what is real spiritual happiness, but we have to hanker for it. See, that is real hanker, that is real greed, that is what we have to possess. Spiritual happiness, what exactly the spiritual happiness? And it is eternal, everlasting. So these two words are very significant actually. What the state of happiness, the spiritual happiness is giving like this. There is no anta. In the previous paragraphs we have said, there is no anta, ananta. There is anta means end. This material happiness is anta. There is a point. But they were in spiritual happiness, it's ananta, endless, and it's everlasting. It's fresh. So how can we get the spiritual happiness? Because when we adopt this, again, Bhakti Yoga principles, practicing devotional life, we get the stage, we get on the way, we get that spiritual happiness. Of course, now also, I mean, when we chant sincerely, 4 rounds, just take an example of 4 good rounds, we feel some kind of happiness, and which we cannot buy from any material, currency or etc. Material currency or any, gold like that. That happiness is beyond the bodily level, and that is eternal actually. Beyond the body level means it's soul connected happiness. That is soul connected happiness. Okay. So we have to understand the spiritual happiness we have to look for. We have to work for actually. Yeah. Swapna Madhavi, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for joining. Thank you for joining. Please continue reading from this paragraph.
When one attains that stage, other achievements appear insignificant. In this material world, we are trying to achieve so many things: riches, women, fame, beauty, knowledge, etc. But as soon as we are situated in Krishna consciousness, we think, oh, no achievement is better than this. Krishna consciousness is so potent that a little taste can save one from the greatest danger. As one begins to relish the taste of Krishna consciousness, he begins to see other so-called enjoyments and attainments as flat and tasteless. And if one is situated firmly in Krishna consciousness, the greatest danger cannot disturb him. There are so many dangers in life because the material world is a place of danger. We tend to close our eyes to this, and because we are foolish, we try to adjust to these dangers. We may have many dangerous moments in our life, but if we are training ourselves in Krishna consciousness and preparing ourselves to go home back to Godhead, we will not care for them. Our attitude will then be dangers come and go, so let them happen. It is very difficult to make this kind of adjustment as long as one is on the materialistic platform and is identifying with the gross body, which is composed of perishable elements. But the more one advances in Krishna consciousness, the more he becomes free from bodily designations and this material entanglement. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the material world is compared to a great ocean. Within this material,
Universe.
there are millions and billions of planets floating in space. And we can just imagine how many Atlantic and Pacific oceans are there. In fact, the whole material universe is likened to a great ocean of misery, an ocean of birth and death. In order to cross this great ocean of nescience, a strong boat is needed. And that strong boat is lotus feet of Krishna. We should immediately get aboard that boat. We should not hesitate, thinking that Krishna's feet are very small. The whole universe is simply resting on his leg. For one who takes shelter on his feet, it is said that the material universe is no more significant than a puddle of water found in the impression of a calf's hoof print. There is certainly no difficulty in crossing over such a small puddle. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanjnitam.
Samgnitam. Yeah.
Saminitam. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. We are entangled in this material world due to uncontrolled senses. The yoga process is meant to control these senses. If somehow we can manage to control the senses, we can turn our face to actual spiritual happiness and make our lives successful. Sa
This is from
nischayena
yeah. Read
sa-
Bhagavad
sa
Gita.
nis- sa nischayena yuktavyo yoga nirvana chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams tyaktva sarvan asesata manasaiva vendriya gramam viniyamya samantata tata sannayai sannir uparmeda buddhya triti gatir gahitaya atma samstam manakratya nakinchit api chintayet yato yato nischalati manas sanchalanam astiram. Tatas ato niyam yaitat atmaneva vasam nayet. One should engage. Shall I continue, Prabhu?
Yeah. Translation of these verses.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith, and not to be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, certain by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
Super. This is what Krishna says, how to control senses. He is giving the answer from these verses, right? So, Prabhupada writes, we are entangled in this material world because, what is the problem? Because, read here, what is the problem? Problem with uncontrolled senses. The yoga process is meant to control the senses. If somehow we can manage to control the senses, we can turn our face to actual spiritual happiness. అంత ఈజీగా రాదు అది. స్పిరిచువల్ హ్యాపీనెస్ అని మనం చాలా ఈజీగా చెప్పుకుంటున్నాం కానీ ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఈజీ టు గెట్ దట్ హ్యాపీనెస్. We have to work for it. In order to work for it, first what we need to do. See, that's the beauty of our Vaishnava Acharya, how he is quoting this, beautiful verses. How to control senses, this teaching is given by Krishna. How to control these senses, then only we will able to get that. We will experience that. Some minute form in the beginning, spiritual happiness, and make our life successful. Very, very wonderful verses actually. 6th chapter, 24, 25, 26. 3 verses, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Beautiful. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. Bhakti yoga, practicing the bhakti yoga with full determination and enthusiasm and faith. One should abandon without exception all material desires. So how these material desires comes is a speculation, born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Gradually, Krishna himself says, gradually, it's not a overnight thing. Year-long effort we need to put in. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance. By means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Now, wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring back under the control of the self. So these are the teachings given by Krishna, how to control the senses, right? So let us read some more paragraphs, and it will wrap it up in another 10-15 minutes. Yeah. Yes. Venela Matadi, Malli Chavan Matadi. The mind is always disturbed.
The mind is always disturbed. It is going sometimes this way and sometimes that way. By practice of yoga, by yoga practice, we literally drag the mind into Krishna consciousness. The mind strays from Krishna consciousness to many other exterior objects, because from the time immemorial, life after life, this has been our practice. Due to this, there may be a great difficulty in the beginning when one tries to fix his mind in Krishna consciousness. But these difficulties can all be overcome. It is because the mind is agitated and not fixed on Krishna that it goes from one thought to another. For instance, when we are engaged in work, memories of events that have happened 10, 20, 30 or 40 years ago may suddenly come to our mind for no apparent reason. These thoughts come to our subconscious, and because they are always rising, the mind is always agitated. If we agitate a lake or pond, all mud from the bottom comes to the surface. Similarly, when the mind is agitated, so many thoughts arise from subconscious that have been stored over the years. If we do not disturb the pond, the mud will settle at the bottom. This yoga process means to quiet the mind and allow all these thoughts to settle. For this reason, there are so many rules and regulations to follow in order to keep the mind from becoming agitated. If we follow the rules and regulations, gradually the mind will come under control. There are so many don'ts and so many do's, and if one is serious about training the mind, one has to follow them. If he acts whimsically, what is the possibility of the mind being controlled? When the mind is finally trained to the point where it will think of nothing but Krishna, it will attain peace and will become very tranquil. Prashanta manasam hiyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti santa rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion and realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to the past. Gita 6.27. The mind is always concocting objects for happiness. I am always thinking, this will make me happy or that will make me happy. Happiness here, happiness is here, happiness is there. In this way, the mind is taking us anywhere and everywhere. It is only as though we are riding on a chariot behind an unbridled horse. We have no power over where we are going, but can only sit in horror and watch helplessly. As soon as the mind is engaged in the process of Krishna consciousness, specifically by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then the wild horses of the mind will gradually come under our control. We must engage in Krishna's service every moment of our life in order to keep the restless, turbulent mind from dragging us from one object to another in a vain search for happiness in the temporary world.
Okay. Yeah. Already. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. So this is what it is. So here controlling senses, how to control these senses. So Krishna said that. So here Prabhupada writes about the nature of the mind, mind's nature, right? Mind's nature is always flickering and wandering, an unsteady nature. It's not stay at one point. That's where we experience many times, if we chant Hare Krishna, when we take up the bead back and chant Hare Krishna, so many thoughts will come, different thoughts will come, plan making thoughts, different thoughts, there is a joke like, when that time only we get the so many thoughts, not other times won't get so many thoughts, whenever, because we are trying to hear the holy names, but somehow mind it drags into different things, world tour, world tour, what happens in the world, what happens in that news, what happens to him, these are the things. So mind cannot control then. So what is saying here, mind is the problem. So by yoga practice, we literally drag the mind to Krishna consciousness. The mind strays from Krishna consciousness to so many exterior objects because from time immemorial, life after life. So generally, the mind strays from Krishna consciousness to so many exterior objects because from time immemorial, life after life, that's where we are struggling. Due to this, there may be great difficulty in the beginning when one tries to fix his mind in Krishna consciousness, but these difficulties can all overcome. These difficulties can all overcome with the Krishna consciousness. If we always think about Krishna, always remember Krishna, chanting and hearing, if we put ourselves in that platform, in that situation, in that process, then slowly mind also subdued. Prashanta manasam hiyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti santa rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. That's what it is. Fix it. That's where consistency needed, and fixing in our seva every day. Chanting japa is a seva to Krishna. So we have to fix in our services slowly, and it will come. Subdued the mind, and we get the spiritual happiness, and that happiness beyond the three modes, and that happiness Shuddha Sattva platform. And he here writes, translation goes like this: he realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme. We are qualitatively one with Krishna. So that's where this philosophy Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. We are qualitatively Krishna, we are qualitatively one with Krishna, but quantitatively different. Just an example, he is situated in all the bodies, Paramatma. He knows everything, but I don't know anything. Until my body, up to my body, I only certain point. So that is the thing. So here, qualitatively, the qualities, Satchidananda Vigraha qualities, we are also having eternality, knowledgeable, and blissful state of the spirit soul is within us. That is a quality of the soul that is there. Right? Quantity means number of souls. Krishna expanded in this material world. Every atom, and moving, non-moving, is there. But it is quantitatively different. So that's why we have to understand. Here, when a yogi is mind fixed on me, Krishna says, fixed on me, very easy, attain the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. That's a determination with focus, with attention. We have to do that. This is the last paragraph. So, Sapan Prabhuji, please read this three.
Hare Krishna. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vikata kalmasa sukhena brahma samsparsam atyantam sukham asnute. Thus, the self-control yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Gita 6:28. Krishna serves as a patron for one who is devoted to him. When one is in difficulty, his patron saves him. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the real friend of every living entity, and we have to revive our friendship with him. The method for reviving this friendship is the process of Krishna consciousness. By practice of Krishna consciousness, mundane, passionate hankering will come to a stop. This passionate hankering keeps us divorced from Krishna. Krishna is within us and is waiting for us to turn to him. But we are too busy passionately eating the fruits of the tree of material desire. This passionate compulsion to enjoy these fruits must stop, and we must situate ourselves in our real identity as Brahman, pure spirit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, beautifully says here, Krishna is the real friend of every living entity. So, what is that verse, Mataji? Do you remember? Venala Mataji? Krishna is the real friend of every living entity. In the Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Suhrudam. Suhrudam sarva bhutanam. Yeah, same verse. And the mood we have to understand, friendly mood and devotional mood. Bhaktosmi sakacheti. Rasyam etadidama. So we have to, Prabhupada writes, how a pure Vaishnava, pure devotee, how he is writing to help us to establish our connection with Krishna. What he is writing? We have to revive our friendship with Krishna. Yeah, Krishna, see, there is a statement, right? Friendship. A friend in need is a friend indeed. We can apply in spiritual life also. A friend in need is a friend indeed. So Krishna always, if it turns towards him, one step further, he is going to take us 100 steps further to reach him, to understand him. No? So we have to revive our friendship with him. This is the Prabhupada words. The method for reviving this friendship is the process of Krishna consciousness. By practice of Krishna consciousness, mundane passionate hankering will come to a stop. The passionate hankering keeps us divorced from Krishna. Passionate hankering means that is a materialistic way of life and material desires, etc. Right? Divorced from us, from Krishna. Krishna is within us and is waiting for us to turn to him. See how a great Vaishnava Acharya like this writes like this. Krishna is within us and is waiting for us to turn to him. Krishna is within us and is waiting for us to turn to him. But we are too busy. We are too busy passionately eating the fruits of the tree of material desire. See how so poetically described. One of the devotee qualities, poetic way of expression. But we are too busy, right? Busy. Busy, you all know what is the meaning of the busy. How our time is spending in different activities. Basically time only. If we use it for Krishna service, that time is eternal. If we use it for material sense gratification, it's temporary. Krishna is within us and he is waiting for us to turn to him, but we are too busy passionately eating the fruits of the tree of material desire. This passionate compulsion to enjoy the fruits must stop. And we must situate ourselves in our real identity as Brahman, pure spirit. On the soul platform, we have to be situated, right? Krishna has given this body. Of course, in every body, he assumed as a super soul. He is expanded as a super soul, along with soul. Right? This body is given by him. This body is given, done by this material nature. By his material nature. Bhumira Punalo Vayu. No, 5 gross elements, 3 subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Total 5 plus 3, 8. And soul is there. Soul is sitting inside in the body, along with super soul. So we have to remember, Suhrudam Sarva Bhutanam, he is the friend of every living entity. That friend is waiting for us. Because he only created. Why he is waiting for us? Can anybody tell, please? Mataji's Prabhus. Why he is waiting for us? We'll stop here actually. Done. Our call is done. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, we'll read the second chapter. Okay. Why he is waiting for us? Can anybody tell?
Because he loves us. He wants us.
Yeah. See, a father is there. Okay. Prabhupada writes this example. A father is there. A father's son also there. You know, son, that son, due to rebellious nature or, due to not listening to his father after, adultery stage, 16 years, 17 years, they get full energy in the body. Udukuraktam. So he left his home and spent his life some 15, 20 years, 30 years in outside of this family, this home is a father's home. He left and staying somewhere else, some other city or some other different country. Assume that 30, 40 years are spending. Suddenly, ఆ అబ్బాయికి మంచి బుద్ధి ఉట్టి అరే మా నాన్న ఏదో మంచి కోసం అని చెప్పిండు, బట్ నేను ఇప్పుడు మంచి సెటిల్ అయినా, నేను ఇప్పుడు మంచిగా ఉన్నా, మా నాన్నని చూడాలని ఉంది అని తన ఇంటికి వచ్చాడు అనుకోండి. వాళ్ళ నాన్న ఎంత సంతోషంగా ఫీల్ అవుతాడు? చాలా సంతోషంగా ఫీల్ అవుతాడు. నా కొడుకు నా దగ్గరకు వచ్చిండు ఇన్ని సంవత్సరాల తర్వాత కూడా. సో దట్ లవ్ ఈజ్ ఆల్వేస్ దేర్. సో సిమిలర్లీ భగవంతుడు కూడా ఈజ్ వెయిటింగ్ ఫర్ అస్. యాక్చువల్లీ ఈజ్ అ గ్రేట్ ఫ్రెండ్ ఆఫ్ అస్. ఈజ్ వెయిటింగ్ ఫర్ అస్. ఈజ్ ఆల్వేస్ లుకింగ్ ఫర్ when this soul turns towards me and understand me and doing service to me. That's what Krishna is looking for us. Krishna is waiting for us actually. But we are so busy, Prabhupada writes, we are so busy passionately spending our time, energy, money in the materialistic way of life. That is a problem. The same effort, the same money, the same time, the same effort, if we put in spiritual life, far, 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 far better that we spending time in material objects or things or, a materialistic way of life. So Krishna consciousness is addressing all the problems. God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Sparsha, the sparsha, spruha, and తెలుగులో కొన్ని వర్డ్స్ ఉంటాయి కదా, స్పర్శ స్పృహ అనేది మనం భగవంతునిపై కనుక మనం తెలుసుకోగలిగితే ఆ స్పృహతో, ఆ స్పర్శతో, ఆ టచ్తో ఎట్లా చేస్తాం, అది ఎట్లా ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ అవుతాం? చాంటింగ్ చేయడం వల్లనే వస్తుంది అది, ఆ స్పర్శ స్పృహ. బై డూయింగ్ చాంటింగ్ ఓన్లీ హరే కృష్ణ మహామంత్ర, Prabhupada writes this statement to awakening dormant love for Krishna. This is the Prabhupada writing in some of the books. Why are we doing this chanting? We are working towards our real eternal friend, to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. Awakening is very important. It is right now, it is hidden. We are not experiencing actually. What is that love? What is the real love? What is the spiritual love? What is the things? What is this? Always we talks about reciprocation. That means exchanging a love between one person to other person. Reciprocation. Even in material relationships, we see that. But in originality, if we establish our connection with Krishna, if we work on this, awakening dormant love for Krishna. How can we awaken the dormant love for Krishna? By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. There is a mantra. Manastrayate iti mantra. The mind is contaminated mind, not pure. So this mantra is going to deliver from the contaminated state. This mantra, and that's why it's called Maha Mantra. Kali Kalena Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. Bhagavatam says, in this Kali Yuga, Krishna appeared as a holy name. Kali Kalena Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. And there is no difference. Abhinnatvam Namanamina. There is no difference between Krishna's name and Krishna's form. Both are identical. That means if we take up chanting Hare Krishna mantra, that means Krishna is with us, the person. That's why we call this Harinama Prabhu ki jai. Right? What is the meaning of Harinama Prabhu? Krishna himself. There is no difference. Krishna's name and his person is a personal form. The Harinam is a form. Harinama Prabhu ki jai. So these are all the things. In order to get spiritual happiness, in order to get the purified in our purifying our existence, we just have to follow the instructions given by these acharyas. These acharyas, why give these instructions? For our eternal benefit only. Okay. With this, let us conclude here. Wednesday, let us connect. The second chapter we will read from the On the Way Krishna. Okay. Today we have read the happiness, the definition of happiness. What exactly happiness? From Prabhupada's small book On the Way to Krishna. And by Wednesday, let us continue with the second chapter. Okay. Thank you very much for joining today. Sapan Kumar Prabhu, Swapna Mataji, Vendala Mataji, Lakshmi Mataji. Sorry, I mean, we're almost done.
Just joining.
Yeah, almost done, Mataji.
Okay, no
So
problem.
Wednesday join our Mataji. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Vancha kalpataru bescha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. श्रील गुरुदेव की जय. निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे. हरि हरि बोल. Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna.